That's what I was
She's
saying.
like that too.
Very cute.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's made from. It looks kind of like it's made from like trash, but in a good way.
Yeah.
The kind of
Yeah.
trash.
It's a job, so I love it.
Recycled.
Recycled. That's the much more
It's a
politically
MacGyver
correct
kind of
way.
mechanism.
Yeah. I shouldn't say trash. Right? Recycled.
It's okay. It's on the spider legs.
I like to insult as soon as I give any sort of take it
I
away.
can take it. Okay, I'll start it too.
Okay.
Okay, I thought one of the funny scenes in the movie has to be the very first time she has her lesson, the first time you hear her sing.
Oh yeah.
And Steven gets some great close-up shots of you, and all those shots, all your reactions, really make that scene so great. I don't know if you recall, that day of shooting and what Steven told you, but if you can remember anything about that day, I'd love to hear about it.
I remember. Well, actually, my wife was there that day, and she didn't come to set that often. So I think she knew it would be fun, and I knew it'd be fun just based on the script. A lot of that stuff was done in editing, and the editor was brilliant. This guy named Valerio, and Steven is brilliant, but it wasn't a lot of planned, then we're going to see this expression or this look, or the movie ended up becoming a lot more, a lot of reactive. It's not an action movie, but it's a reaction movie, I guess. But in the script it did say, Cosme, it said something like Florence opens her mouth and it sort of lets out, this shrill, a screech or something like that, and it said, Cosme looks like a stunned mullet. That's what it said. And I had to look up mullet. I know the hairstyle very well. It's super cool. But I was like, it's a very British. There are a lot of Britishisms in the script because Nicholas Martin wrote it, and he's brilliant and British, brilliant and British. It can happen. No, they're all. It's like there are a lot of those moments and those descriptions, and so anyhow, when we shot it, because we were playing this music live in the film, so what you're hearing and what you're seeing is happening. We didn't do it to playback. There was so much to focus on and so much work to be done that it helped actually kind of liberate us from becoming totally self-conscious because we were playing this music. So, and it made it very authentic. So she's singing and that's me playing and reacting, and I think that is the kind of electric part of that. But that day was really fun. I feel like I remember knowing that this is going to be a good scene. At the very least, it's important because it's the first time the audience hears her, and it obviously I was sort of the eyes of the audience. So I did feel a bit of pressure, but she's so brilliant, Meryl, that all I really was doing was just watching her, and that's it. And that's when you can watch a master like that, it makes everyone else's job very easy. So, yeah.
I'll go next. So, your character is a great comedic relief to the way that he tries to compose himself. But there's also kind of when he's not playing the piano, he's kind of in a perpetual. It looks like he's in a perpetual state of nervousness the whole time. He's very giddy. He's very.
Yes, I don't know where I got that.
So my question is that something that, upon researching the actual individual, is that something that the individual was known for? Is that something unique that you brought to the character that you thought that this would be great to,
Yeah, there certainly was no evidence of his disposition in real life, his emotional stability or anything like that in terms of the research. The research didn't lead.
Limited?
Yeah, it didn't lead to, as I'm sure if you guys have looked any of this stuff up, there's probably actually more now. In fact, I think there's a biography now with the poster on the cover. So they waited till after we had to do all the work to publish the biography. But there's really kind of nothing, which was, except for maybe Cosme was a master chess player, and he was born in Mexico and moved to San Antonio, and when he was a little kid, and then he lived in New York at 18, and things like this, which actually were helpful because it says, and then it was implied that he was gay and was into amateur bodybuilding, and so all of those things are lovely little clues to, what might that guy be? What might it be like to, you know, not have English as your first language and move countries as a young child and move to New York and be gay when it's illegal and forbidden to be gay? How does that manifest? It probably makes somebody feel sort of alien in their own body. And then the other part of it is just, you know, the script and the clues that were there, you know, that this guy, how difficult it was for him to try to confront, you know, Hugh's character, to tell him that his wife is a terrible singer, surely you must know, and Hugh seems to have no idea, and how uncomfortable that might make somebody who's maybe never had to confront anybody, and then to know about this mistress. It felt like every scene he had walked into some kind of something where some kind of conspiracy that he had to help uphold, and how that would make you very uncomfortable, and it seemed like the right dynamic, I guess. And then I'm just a nervous person, and Meryl Streep and Stephen Frears and Hugh Grant showing up there. I was giddy and I was scared and I was kind of in awe, you know.
Have you ever found yourself in a similar situation when working in Hollywood, where you find yourself in a position where you heard so much good things, and then it's different from when you're used to, and you have to tell somebody, I don't
give up the pipe dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that I did think about, obviously, because, you know, to play this character, I thought about what is that kind of moment, you know, because he has so many moments like that where he's like, and I think that we naturally tend to encourage people to pursue what they want, unless it's detrimental to, you know, anyone around them. And also, and sometimes we do it out of selfishness or out of fear of hurting them, or if we profit from it. And I think this movie walks that line where these people are gaining something financially and artistically, but also they're helping a woman live out her dream in this beautiful way, the way you would a child, you know, where you wouldn't really criticize a 3-year-old for having a bad voice, or, you know, having a little belly, or having a, you know, bad dance moves, or whatever. They're the joy of their expression is infectious. But I haven't crushed a lot of dreams, not as many as I should. But I did think about, and there are people I know, like there are people I know who I thought about who were so just kind of like Pollyannish and kind and innocent, and I thought, like, what would it be like if that person? I worked with a person who was like a producer that would have to fire people, and she was the sweetest, most meek. Like, you felt like she would just crack if you. And I thought, what would it be like when this person fires somebody? There's no way that. And I just thought about that, I guess, during this movie too, because he has to constantly kind of be the messenger to deliver bad news, but he's not equipped to be, you know, a dream crusher. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm a little too. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. You know? It's scary.
Yeah. Well, talk a little bit about your training. Well, not training, but learning the piano and when that started. Because obviously, it's very. I mean, even before I read that it was you playing it, it's very obvious. It was very well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I grew up playing. Well, I started when I was about 10, and which seemed late at the time, though so silly now to think about it. Very little, but I got obsessed with it, and I tried to play classical, and I didn't really connect, and I ended up playing rock music and playing jazz. Then after that, to sort of in school and got into these bands, and I was really, by the time I was 16, I played kind of all around the Sunset Strip and in a bunch of jazz places, and had a couple bands and made tiny bit of money, and sort of did it semi-professionally, and then I just stopped and I started acting. So that was like, I sort of peaked at that moment, and then I just played for fun, and then I got this role and kind of lied to Stephen Frears and said, "Oh, I can play anything. I'm a professional piano player." But I said it like meaning I may not be able to play all of it, but I know where my hands should go. And he just honed in on, "You can play anything," and I really wanted to be in this movie and meet Meryl Streep
And not crush someone's dream.
Yes, yeah, and not crush Steven's dream of my ability. So yeah, no, so I had to learn. I had to kind of have this crash course for a few months and took some lessons. But I can play many. I'm very slow at reading. It was like I had to I get an apartment to go and sit alone and work through this and then learn these pieces as well as I could backwards and forwards, so that when I got on the set to accompany Meryl and to shoot this, aside from just that terror, also just the ability to kind of bob and weave with her singing, like sort of destroying these songs, and the ability to kind of do that. So yeah, it took like 3 months or so, 4 months to really get ready.
You mentioned earlier when on that day you shot that scene, your wife was on set, and I also read on production notes that you, along with her, made your directorial debut with Paris.
Yeah.
And you won the Audience Award at Newport Beach International Film Festival.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I was like, when you work with someone like Stephen Frears or Todd Phillips or Joe Nathan Cohen, what have you taken away from those experiences that you applied when you got behind the camera?
Well, let's see. Everyone works very differently. Like Joel and Ethan storyboard everything, and they are word perfect. I mean, they're just so brilliant. But their scripts are, as you read them, the transition from page to screen is identical. I mean, there's usually when you read a script or you do a movie, by the time you see it, it's very different. It feels they have basically finished the movie in their heads before you started. So, and I thought from that I tried to make the script as good as I possibly could before, and I asked everybody to have the lines memorized perfectly, and then you can open it up a little bit for sort of improv and that, but when you're making a movie and on a tight schedule and it's your first one, I think if you rely too heavily on, this will come together later, or we'll find it on the set, or the scene's okay, but let's come up with something that works better. I don't feel that's the greatest. I got to work with Christopher Guest too, and all his movies are improvised, but it's not like we'll find it there. These are, first of all, trained improvisers, and they've plotted out the story incredibly well, so they know the points that they have to hit. I think that you get into a dangerous. You want it to be free on set where you can find things, but you don't want to be lost going into it completely. I think so. And Steven he's kind of between both of those actually. It's so free, but it's also you're kind of filtering it through his vision, but almost seamlessly. You don't feel him pulling the strings. It's just, I mean, his look at his movies. I don't know how he does it. I've gotten to know it's a good group of people I've gotten to be around.
You said you had mentioned that you were kind of in awe of your, Hugh Grant and Meryl Streep working with them. So how was that relationship dynamic on set? How when you're working with Meryl and working with you, were you able to kind of play off each other? Did they give you any pointers?
Yeah, for sure. I think all we did was play off each other, and that's all you kind of ever want to do. But when you're working with really great people, Meryl will talk about things sort of feeling alive, and that's what she's so brilliant at, is everything. Every time you watch her, it's like, even seeing the movie again, I haven't really seen it all that recently, but I'll keep kind of, some of these screenings I'll see a moment, and I'm always amazed by something that she's doing, because it is that kind of life on screen. It's not something that you can kind of figure out at home. It has to happen there, so it takes this total surrender and confidence, and also vulnerability, and both of them, and a commitment. So it's like the amount of work that goes into it that we all put into it, and then you sort of let go of it on the set and just try to be in that, in that moment. And it's pretty two pretty incredible people to watch.
Now, you are entering, or you're about to enter your 10th season with The Big Bang Theory. 10 years for working on a television show, and then back when it started in 2007, it was still taboo to be a geek, but now at this point in pop culture, it's like to be a geek is almost to be like a rock star.
Yeah.
At this point, how did you see?
You're welcome, geeks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you see this show transform over the number of years, and how proud are you to be as part of that ensemble?
I'm very proud to be part of it, and I have noticed. I feel like there was a lot more in the beginning. I would say when we would talk to people, I'd say, I think that there's a lot more geeks out there than people realize, or there's a lot more people out there that feel awkward or don't feel like they have a place, or and maybe it's just like a bunch of closeted nerds that this is sort of said, hey, it's okay, like we're actually the stars of the show in this one, we're not the buddies, and that's cool. I mean, I don't know if that was ever intended to do anything more than just entertain people, and I feel like it has kind of spoken to a deeper part of this, what maybe was a subculture is now more of a mainstream culture, but it's cool to see that happening, and I think it, you never know. The other really cool thing is that we meet a lot of people that are going into science, and or these little kids that have grown up watching that want to be engineers and physicists, and I think that is really great. And I feel like if I was a kid and I saw this show, it might inspire me, because I didn't really have that much of an interest in science, and it's great that people are talking a lot more about this thing, especially as certain people seem to deny that science is real, which who would have ever thought that would happen? But it's nice to have like a platform to say this is irrefutable. These are irrefutable facts, and they're actually kind of fun, and we should celebrate the beauty of evolution is a pretty magical thing, and that's kind of cool. I don't know.
It very much is. I am myself a geek.
I wasn't gonna say.
Well, that's what drew me so much to this show. I was like, oh, look, my people.
Yeah.
Guys, this will be last question, okay?
Perfect.
Oh,
Let's go
okay.
with your piece.
Well, what I was going to ask you about the filming for this movie is, what was the difference between working for like a British company and because some of the filming was done there, right, in England?
All of it. Actually.
Oh, all of it. Okay,
Yeah.
and then versus working with like an American company and working here.
Yeah. Well, it was, first of all, kind of my first time getting to spend a real chunk of time in London, and
Which is amazing.
it is such a great city, and we fell in love with England, and we're sort of right outside the city, but and just it's a magical place. But I mean, I think I guess it's a different. I mean, in some ways it's very much the same, but there's just there's kind of like an elevated level of class or something that you feel. Maybe it's just also who I was working with. Obviously, it's sort of royalty in many ways, everybody involved. But it also felt very intimate, and that I think is a British thing. The studio that we shot at was like the size of my garage, and it had one, or maybe it had two stages, but there was no security. There was no, in Los Angeles, these are like institutions, and
Right.
this was just, it felt very like I'm standing. We're shooting. That's Meryl Stevens there. We're in this little play. We're just making this movie, and I think that helps to feel intimate when you're making something intimate, because you can get carried away in the sort of monstrous size and the feeling of a studio. It didn't feel like there was a studio.
Okay. The more
And
natural.
Yeah, it just felt like this is a movie with this group of people, and that's always the way you want it to kind of feel, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
very much, man.
Do you mind if I take a? Would it be okay to take a quick?
Yeah.
picture?
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's do it for the poster.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, guys. That was really funny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My sister's a real big fan of this show, but when I told her when we interviewed, she was like super jealous.
Ah, good. Well, as long as I can drive.
Do you want? Could we do it with a group?
We can do really quick individual sketch. I'll take a Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, very nice.
Likewise.
Very good.
I know I go after my director, but I want to get that in there.
No, that's very nice. Yeah, no, thank you. That's really cool.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Super good.
Good. I just, by the end of this, I don't know